Hello, my name is Fedor and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my new book.
Now, Fedor, can you please tell us a little bit about your Sambo background and why is it so effective for your competition in mixed martial arts?
In my opinion, I would say Sambo is the best sport for mixed martial arts fighting. It makes you physically tough, prepares you for the struggle of battle, and teaches you how to explode with each technique. Sambo is ideal for fighting.
Fedor, why is your style of fighting so good?
To be a successful mixed martial artist, of course you need to train a lot and be dedicated. But on top of that, you have to have a fighting style that will give you a leg up. I believe Russian Sambo can do that for a fighter, and this is what I focus on in my book. In my book, I offer all the techniques that I use in training and competition. I demonstrate numerous boxing techniques, methods for shooting in for a takedown, kicking techniques, and various ways to asphyxiate your opponent in the ring. I've included only the techniques that I've used in the ring. And each one is detailed through narrative and step-by-step photographs. All the techniques are very clear. This is a technique that I used in my fight with Mirko Krokop. While tied up in the clinch, I pulled him into me, hooked the inside of his supporting leg, and then shifted to the side to put him on his back. It is a very concrete technique. The outside trip from an over-under body lock is a technique that I used to repeatedly throw Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira during our fight. While tied up in the clinch, I circled around behind him and then executed the throw. This is a technique that I use quite often when competing in combat Sambo. From the clinch, I throw a knee, snap my opponent's head down, and then circle around to his back. Once there, I submit him with the rear naked choke on the ground. The knee strike in this technique I use during training and competition, as well as show to all of my students. The target for knee strikes are your opponent's liver, stomach, and head. This is a standing choke. If your opponent pulls his head out, as Mark Coleman did when we fought, you want to immediately attack his head with a series of punches. This is a technique you can use when your opponent shoots in for your legs. You sprawl and then circle around to his back for the choke. I used this technique against Antonio Nogueira, Mark Coleman, and several other fighters. In this technique, I demonstrate how to free your arms when you're in your opponent's guard and he clamps down on your arms using overhooks. Once you free your elbow, it's easy to pull the rest of your arm out. That's when you want to strike. I use this technique on Antonio Nogueira, Mirko Krokop, and several other fighters. In this situation, you're in your opponent's guard and he attacks your arm with a Kimura. Here I demonstrate how to free your arm and then use your opponent's compromised positioning to land a hard strike. I use this technique against Antonio Nogueira. This is another technique I used against Antonio Nogueira when he applied a Kimura from his guard. His goal was to make me tap, but by applying this technique and driving my weight into his shoulder, he was unable to secure the submission. This is a technique that I used to pass Heath Herring's guard and land a hard strike to his head. To execute this technique, you want to dump your opponent's legs to the side and then strike. This is a technique I used to escape a triangle choke when in Antonio Nogueira's guard. It's a good technique to know when going up against Brazilian fighters and others who like to use their legs to lock in chokes. This is a technique that allows you to pass your opponent's guard, circle around to the north-south position, and then apply a shoulder lock. I used this technique against Kevin Randleman and Mark Hunt. I've also won a lot of Sambo fights using this technique. This is a sport Sambo technique that allows you to attack one of your opponent's legs. If you lock in the submission and your opponent doesn't tap, you will cause extreme damage. The half guard to knee bar is the technique I used to defeat Mark Hunt. This book contains almost all of the techniques that I use in fighting. Of course, there are little nuances that might not be included, but basically by studying this book, you can learn and understand all of the techniques that I do in the ring. So buy and study this book.